And welcome back to a new episode of League DFS. My name is Chris Chung. This show is a feature of the Game Haus, who is now hosting all things esports related, all things traditionally sports related. But I am so glad to continue. They allow me to have this free flow to continue what I've been doing and just hoping to bring League of Legends to our viewers, to those who are interested in the DFS aspect. We want to know, of course, how the game is played. And tonight I have the pleasure of inviting, I think this is your third time on the show, Zachary?
Yeah.
That's
third
awesome.
time. Yep.
And I continually be grateful that you are willing to jump on to the show and just give us your take on what's been going on in, both in LCS and LEC.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yeah, we're coming fresh off a week from Rift Rivals, and I had a good solo show back there. A bit of an up and down how I figure out what how the whole thing went. How was Rift Rivals for you?
It was both sad and not so sad because I do have interest on both sides of the pond as it is. So I'm very happy to see Fnatic succeed as well as they have, and to experiment with Dan a little bit. But I was crushed to see that Team Liquid is right now our only hope for North America. So we got work to do, man. We got work to do.
Absolutely. But note that. Okay, so maybe G2 didn't really play as seriously as we'd like, but still. Yeah, they did. The second, wait, which one? The TL game.
No, here's the thing. I will don't let me go too much on a tangent here. But G2 has gotten away with play their ridiculous flex everything style in Europe, because where North America has this kind of muddy mess in the middle of the standings, there's a pretty steep cliff for Europe. There's Fnatic, there's G2, Origin, and then who? And that really steep cliff has allowed G2 to get away with a lot. And I was very glad to see that they were finally getting punished for it. Sad that nobody else aside from Liquid could do that, but Liquid does have experience getting beat by that style. So I don't think that was a troll game at all. I still say that was a valid G2 draft, considering all the rest of their drafts. So I'm really glad that Liquid 2-0'd them, really.
Absolutely. I think the second game, particularly when you're talking about it, was a standard comp by G2. I was expecting them to just play it more seriously, and which I think they did. There are a couple of spots here and there where I think Caps took more risk than he needed to. But it's a good news that Team Liquid is adapting. They're not playing their solely one style as they were last split, even last split. They're evolving, and this is good news, but it also means this is the only North American hope we have of getting out of groups.
For right now.
We'll see. Right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a wake-up call for my summer's favorite C9, and hopefully it's a wake-up call for TSM to figure something. The jungling is a mess, but we'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely talk about that as we dive into it. I'm inviting you here tonight, Zachary, to talk not just LCS, but also specifically we're going to be a little bit clutch-centric. I like that. You know why? Because the last two times I had TSM on, I had 100 Thieves on, both of them went a 2-0 week. So I am looking forward to a 2-0 week for clutch.
Please give us the primetime buff. I'd love it. It would mean a lot this week.
We will continue this streak, and having you on tonight, let's just pick up from where we are last time, because the last time we spoke was in the spring split, and we had a lot to talk about their roster composition. They played up to my expectation at least. I mean, maybe it is a little bit disappointing for the Clutch fans, but sort of we see them rotating around that roster. So what's been going on since spring, and what is the current look for the roster, and how do you feel after 4 weeks of summer?
The look's very good, honestly. It's quite handsome, I'll say. But honestly, the change in the AD carry position from Piglet over to Cody Sun has done so much for this roster. It's night and day, honestly. In spring, before spring, when the roster was announced, I said this roster is a powder keg. They have an incredibly high ceiling. Huni is really good. Lyra can be really good. Vulcan and Piglet, a little bit untested. Demonte, a little bit untested, but they've got that potential to do really well. At the same time, they also had no floor. They had no one who could be their fallback plan if things start going wrong. All of those players have a tendency to go a little bit too far and push a little bit too much, too many risks, as you were saying earlier, for caps. And honestly, it showed. We had really good performances. We had really good performances up till 25 minutes, and then we threw the game away. So that's not something that I'm seeing right now. I am seeing that we have this solid baseline thanks to Cody's son. In games where Huni is struggling, he'll still be able to make a great teleport play bottom and pick up Cody's son and push Cody and Vulcan ahead to really make the plays. And I've seen something that I haven't seen since middle of spring 2018 last year, is that Lyra's confident.
Yes.
Lyra is really confident here. He's the one making a lot of these engages and doing a lot of the playmaking here. And that's something that I was crying about and constantly nagging about last summer, is that he would not engage when we needed him to engage. And this spring, he was rarely ever put on an engaged style of champion. A lot of the time he was on Lee Sin, and Lee Sin's got not much place anywhere. So honestly, it is night and day. And I really think that as long as this clutch can get into playoffs, they can make a pretty deep run here. I'm expecting semifinals, as long as they're able to keep that consistent base and make it into playoffs.
I'm glad you brought up Lyra, and the two things that we noticed, that I noticed, and even some of our newer viewers are starting to pay attention to League of Legends, which I'm really happy about. They are praising Lyra's play in the jungle. He's been active. He's been very much someone that we know was one of the missing components. And the other thing is Huni's not inting. He is not inting as much. As much.
And it's really funny you bring that up. There was actually an interview with Vulcan a couple of weeks ago. I think it was after week 2 that they had their 2 a week. And there's an interview with Vulcan, and he said that the thing that Cody's son brings more to the team than anyone else is he says no. He says, hang on, guys, let's not dive between 2 towers when we can just take the tower instead. Don't leave your AD carry to tank 5 tower shots and throw the game away. Let's just do the standard thing. And honestly, I think that's had a big help on Huni. He's not going too far anymore. If he's getting beat, it's because the other person's playing well, not because he's playing bad.
Absolutely. And this is a great to see Huni go back to his old form. Maybe this is like the beginning of that. He's finally taking NA seriously, I have to say. Maybe that's one of it.
Certainly seems like it.
Maybe he had his vacation time. I don't know. People come up with all different kinds of reasons. But when you see other Korean imports are doing well, Bang is finally doing well. You have Crown, who is doing amazing. And now you're bringing, and Huni's been there. Now, the other piece that you did bring in, Cody-san, was a pleasant surprise for me. I thought, was his first appearance against 100 Thieves, this split?
His first appearance was... no, he started from the very beginning of the split, actually. Yeah.
And then I noted that I need to play Cody-san when he was playing 100 Thieves, the revenge narrative, and blah, blah, blah. But he kept it going. He's consistent. And that is good to see. So... From the strength of the team, now we're talking a little bit about the disappearance of Demonte. Perhaps it's because he's not needed to do as much, or is there something else that's going on with Demonte?
I don't think it's a disappearance as much. I think you're right in that he's not needed as much on this team. He's not asked to be that solo carry anymore. He's asked to be that consistent carry. I think he's trying to emulate much more Cody's son than he is Piglet for the mid lane. And honestly, it's worked. If you take a look at the game, I'm forgetting who it was against, but he was playing Akali, and he and Huni were doing this weird swap, whatever, between their lanes in order to get a better matchup. It set them very, very far behind in the early game, a couple thousand gold, because they just weren't getting the farm. They weren't in their lanes. But then as soon as he was able to start making those plays, as soon as that Akali was unlocked and online, then you saw the Demonte that everyone's been asking to see. Then you saw him really have that kind of pop-off performance. He's not doing it every time. He doesn't need to do it every time. But when he can, he does.
Absolutely. And hopefully we do note that Demonte for his brilliant play early on in his rookie split, I believe.
Almost rookie, yeah. There's that weird half split on Echo Fox,
Right.
but let's not count that.
Hey, players have been getting better once they left. And I noted, who was I talking to on Twitter about that? They made out the point to point out that Echo Fox made tons of mistakes last year and letting go some of these talents. But we're good that they found their home with Clutch. This is a better looking team. Even in games that they lost, it wasn't a complete crush outside of the C9 game, but that's early in the season. We're going to forget about that.
That was week 1. I believe that was actually the one with the dive between two towers that Cody Sun was tanking the tower for whatever reason. And I think that was kind of their wake-up call kind of game.
Yes. And so from there on, every game has been close. They've won. They've only lost to TSM after that. Right, correct. Yeah. And that was a close game.
Liquid, yeah.
That was a close game as well. Was that a base race game?
Honestly, I don't believe so.
Okay.
But I do know that the only teams that have beaten them are ahead of them in the standings. They've got that really solid middle of the pack look where everybody that above them is beating them.
And that was a close game
for now.
That was a close game.
But they're still able to consistently beat.
Was that a base race game?
Below them, and outside of Optic, who I believe way overperformed at the early part of the split, they don't have any sour marks against them really. So I'm actually really looking at their CLG game this weekend to see how good they can be. I think this is really where they gotta light the fire underneath themselves and get things going.
Oh yeah, and we'll definitely break down that game a little bit because CLG is an enigma. They're an enigma to me still, and not so much of that reputation of inconsistency. But we'll talk about that game in a little bit. So let's take a little bit of a step back and a global look looking forward. We've come
and we'll
from early in the
break
summer,
down that game a little
and
bit.
since then there's been a lot of patch changes.
An enigma.
I believe they're an enigma to me still,
12 or 9,
and not so much of that reputation of inconsistency.
I believe it's still
we'll talk about
9-12. If it's 9-13, then we will get to see Mordekaiser.
Let's take a little bit of a step back and a global look looking forward.
The Iron Giant is locked away.
From early in the summer. And since then, there's been
I
a
don't
lot
even
of
know where to
patch
think with
changes.
that. I
really
hope
we're headed
Mordekaiser
into
gets
12 or
killed
9-13. It's not fun. But I want to see. I do want to see it on pro stage and see if it is truly broken as people say it is. I mean, I feel it.
know.
So if it's 9-12, that's similar to the Rift Rivals patch.
I don't even know where to think with that. I
Rivals
really
patch,
hope Mordekaiser gets nerfed.
Anything that Clutch can pick up and get better at. But
during
I want to
this
see. I
time
do want to
that
see it
they
on
get
pro
the
stage
Rift
and see if
Rivals
it's
off.
truly
I
broken.
noted
As people
that
say it
last
is.
year,
the teams that played in Rift Rivals had a slower start once the season started,
if
because
it's
other teams
9-12,
had more time to prepare. That's
are
similar
there
to
anything
the Rift
else
Rivals
do you
patch,
think that
I
Clutch
believe?
can take advantage of during this practice time?
Anything that Clutch can
Honestly,
pick up,
I hope that they were able to scrim some of the
at
European
during
teams.
this time
I
that
think
they
that
get
playing
the Rift
against
Rivals
G2 and
week off.
Fnatic
I
is some of the
noted
greatest
that
experience
last
you
year,
can get right now.
The teams that played in Rift Rivals had
in my
a
mind,
slower
of
start
course,
once the
I'm not paying
season
as much
started,
attention to the
because other
Eastern regions
teams had
as I
more
should
time
be.
to prepare.
But in my mind right now,
are there
since
anything
G2
else
won
do you think
MSI and
that,
Fnatic
Clutch
beat
can,
G2,
take
those are
advantage
the
of
top two
during this,
teams
practice
right now.
time?
Of course, Liquid is challenging that with their Rift Rivals performance, but seriously, I really hope the Clutch had some time to scrim against the European teams, even if it is Origin. Origin is a great team too.
Yes.
I just think that the more experience and the different looks that you get from playing against international teams is invaluable.
Absolutely. That's a great point to bring up, and I didn't know that if these teams were able to scrim with these with the European teams.
Oh, for sure, they were.
Okay.
And that was a lot of Twitter talk about, is one team not scrimming them, or who gets to scrim them, that sort of a thing. But to my knowledge, they were able to get some scrim times.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
That's a great
And
point
that
to bring up, and I didn't know that if these teams were. And I noted that some of the players even said that
European teams.
the Rift Rivals experience was good for them to know, to learn, and to grow from that. At the least, I know that Team Liquid will continue to grow from that experience. So let's look into this week then. It's only LCS week this weekend, guys. So it's going to be a bit of a shorter.
Absolutely.
And I noted that some of the players even said that
focusing on North
Rift
America
Rivals experience was good for them
this
to
week.
know,
Week
to
5
learn and to
we'll
grow
start
from that.
with, of course,
At the least, I know that
previewed
a little bit Clutch against CLG.
from that experience.
What have you noticed about CLG? Let's look into this week then.
Opponents? What have
It's
you learned
only
from
LCS
them?
week this weekend,
is
guys. So it's going to be a bit of a shorter
preparation needed,
Ruin
but
is a beast.
we're focusing on North America today.
Everybody else
This
should
week,
try and fall in
week
line.
5, we'll start
Also,
with, of
I
course,
feel like
we
Biofrost
already
is showing us
previewed
a little bit more of
Clutch against
his back to
CLG.
form. It's
What
been a couple
have
of
you
years,
noticed about
but
CLG
we saw
scouting
him
ahead,
really,
scouting your
I think,
opponents? What have you learned from
overperform
them? What
in
kind
his
of
rookie
team
split
is
on
this?
TSM. But I think he's starting to get back to those higher highs. Other than that, I have never been able to read Power of Evil. I will never be able to read Power of Evil. Stixay does seem to be doing much better than he has been. Again, along with Biofrost, they're just showing us a bit more of that talent that they have. And Wiggly is still a rookie. He can still make mistakes, but he also seems to have a good head on his shoulders. And if he's being led around the map by the other members of his team, or if he's doing it himself, I'm still pretty impressed. He's had a really good split. So I'm very, very worried because they are a very formidable team. Of course, I say that now, and then they're going to end on Saturday because it's counter logic.
Absolutely. It is counter logic, like you mentioned. And this team, which of the 2 losses that Team Liquid had, they took one of them, and that game actually looked more like a legit win over Team Liquid. There might have been a few mistakes there rather than that Echo Fox game. So
Absolutely.
CLG could have these high highs, but and this team, which I don't know, like you say, Biofrost,
of the 2
maybe
losses
returning
that
to
Team
form,
Liquid had,
they took one of them,
to be
and
overperforming.
that game
I like
actually
Ruin.
looked
He's a
more
great
like a
pickup
legit
after his
win
MSI performance.
over Team Liquid. There might have been a few mistakes there
And Wiggly has earned himself
so
an
CLG
extension.
could
If you guys
have
didn't
these
catch
high
that,
highs,
we
but
did post that news on
I
our
don't
website.
know.
at
Like
the
you
Game
say,
Haus.
Biofrost may
So
be
he'll have
returning
2
to
more
form
years with CLG.
Stixay, at least whatever
Seems
contract
to be
means.
overperforming. I like
esports.
Ruin. He's a great pickup after
but
his
all
MSI
intents and
performance.
purposes.
Trades can happen, but still, it's good.
They love
It's good
and
for him.
Wiggly
They love him.
has
And
earned himself
he's
an
earned it.
extension.
He went
If
from
you
the
guys
academy
didn't catch that,
stage.
He really
we
has.
did post that news
And coming
on
in, I
our
don't know
website
why
at the
they
Game Haus.
tested out with Moon.
So he'll
in
have 2 more
spring, if
years
I
with
remember that
CLG.
correctly.
At least
Made a
whatever
flip-flop, but now
contract
he's
means in
solidifying himself as a
esports.
mainstay at
Uh,
CLG.
But all
Now,
intents and purposes,
counter logic. They beat teams that they're
They
not
love
supposed
him.
to beat, and
they
they
love
lose
him,
to
and
teams that they're not
he's
supposed
earned
to
it.
lose to.
He went from the
Where
academy
does
stage. Clutch fall in that
And
spectrum.
coming in, I don't know why they.
I'm
tested out
hoping
with
that
Moon
Clutch is
in
a
the
team
spring,
that
if I
is
remember that correctly.
supposed to lose.
Made
But
a flip-flop,
again,
but now
these
he's
are
solidifying
2
himself
right
as
in the
a
middle of the pack
mainstay at
teams.
CLG.
There's
Now,
that big old
counter logic.
muddy mess
They
behind
beat
Team
teams
Liquid
that they're not
as
supposed
to
to beat,
who
and they lose
ranks
to teams that
where.
they're not supposed to lose to.
And Clutch and
Where
CLG
does
are right in the thick
Clutch
of it.
fall
I
in that
believe
spectrum?
we're 1 game behind them right now.
Yeah.
Yes, they are tied for second. We are tied for 6th because there's that many of us in the middle.
But they're only
So
1 game.
if you look at the rankings, it's scary for me because Clutch has lost all their 4 losses. Team Liquid, TSM, Cloud9, Optic. Those are 4 out of the 5 teams above them. And CLG is the 5th. But if they can beat CLG and tie with them, then I think
only 1 game.
this is a great shot. You've beat 5 out of the 9 teams in the LCS. You should be able to get at least to playoffs. So this is really the telling game for me, more so than any other one right now, as to who stands where. Because I think CLG and Clutch are both right on that cusp of playoffs. I know CLG has missed it time and time and time again. And I'm hoping that we might make them lose it again. If we can both make it in, that's great. But I'm hoping that we don't get bumped out in favor of CLG.
Yeah.
So.
And this is sneakily one of the games that I am really looking forward to because, like you mentioned, they are perhaps in ranking they look like they're far apart, but they're only a game behind. And their play style, both teams are trending in the right directions with their team composition. So let's talk about a little bit about the matchup. I know, and this is sneakily head-to-head matchup. One of the games that
usually about
I am really looking forward to because, like you mentioned, but they are. If we're looking in ranking, for look some like they're far apart, but they're only against Ruin and Wiggle, Lyra against play style. Wiggly, both teams are trending in the right directions with their team and then we have the bot laners. So let's talk about a little bit about the matchup. Where does the edge fall for Legends? Head-to-head matchup doesn't really mean much.
I think the edge has got to be Lyra.
Come together.
And that's something I would not have told you a month ago before this split had started.
Against Ruin,
honestly,
Lyra
he
against
has
Wiggly,
revolutionized himself
against Power
during
of
the
Evil,
summer
and then we
split
have the
here,
bot
and
laners
it's been fantastic to watch.
Where does the edge fall
he
for
is
Clutch?
The engager for the team. If they put too much of that on Vulcan, then things kind of fall apart. But if they can get Lyra on a comfortable champion and allow him to engage, you saw him running around his ear walls just saying, no, you're mine. And I think he can really push the tempo in a way that Wiggly may not be able to yet. I think a lot of Lyra's pathing is very, very intelligent. It's just been a 180-degree change from what I saw from him in spring. And so I really think that's got to come through Lyra before anything else. Ruin, I believe, can absolutely match Huni. That's not saying that either of them is weak. That's saying they're both really good. Demonte and Power of Evil both have their ups and downs. Same with Biofrost and Vulcan. I do think that Cody Sun has historically had that match over Stixxay almost his whole career. So I think that he's an obvious edge there, but I don't think he can do it all himself. I think it's got to come from the jungle.
Oh, wow. So that's the matchup we will really have to see if Lyra can just be everywhere. What's his favorite champ right now that he does especially well in?
Skarner and Jarvan 4 have been the ones that I've been the most impressed with. Skarner seems to be when Jarvan is taken away, although I know Jarvan priority's been kind of falling as of late.
Matchup
so,
we will really
maybe
have
it's
to
just
see
that.
if
But
Lyra
again, we've also seen Sejuani not banned away from him as well.
What's his favorite champ right now that he does?
I'm excited to see if he can make plays on that. So we'll have to see, because his Gragas could be really good as well. We haven't seen him on that yet. It's normally been picked against him, I believe. But still, I give him a go in button, and I'm really confident for us.
That's awesome. And we will look forward to that matchup. Anything else on the first weekend? I know there's a couple of games that my people might have highlighted or circled around, but which one interests you as well for day one of week 5?
For day one, I'm actually going to be looking at TSM and 100 Thieves, because TSM
and we will look forward to that matchup. Anything else on the first weekend? I know there's a couple of games
and 100 Thieves, of course.
My people might have highlighted or circled around.
They've been doing
but
really,
which
really
one interests you
well. It finally seemed to put things together
week 5.
with Ryu back in the mid lane. Thank goodness. So I'm looking at them. I want to see if my friends over at 100 Talk can have another good weekend for them. But I'm also really concerned about TSM's jungle. They had a Cadian who was great. And then as soon as they said, well, you're going to be sharing time with Grig, we saw him fall through the floor. And I'll be honest, I have not seen high highs from Grig. I have seen what Acadian was doing last split from him, but I have not seen anything that makes me think, man, I really want to play this guy over Acadian right now. Again, I have no insight. There's obviously internal talks that go on with them, but man, it really just seems like they have ruined Acadian's confidence with this double jungling situation, and that Grig has not been the same player that Acadian was in spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard of some whispers on other forums about how TSM has never been able to figure out their jungler, and stemming from last year, and even Mike Young, that was well, Mike Young's back, and
he is. We will
see him.
Another big thing to talk about, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm kind of sad for Rush. I've heard of some whispers probably one on other forums, even though he's not winning how TSM has never been able to figure out their jungler. One of my favorite to watch, stemming from last split. Mike Young, that was
always a very interesting.
Well, Mike Young's back, and
sometimes he puts the int in interesting, but you know,
absolutely.
He's a coin flip.
Kind of sad for Rush.
That's always an exciting play style to see.
Even though he's not winning a lot, helping Echo Fox win a lot, he was
very
one of my favorite
concerned
to watch,
about Echo Fox again, though.
Split,
And most of Echo Fox is the old clutch gang from last year, with Apollo, Hakuho, and Solo being on that roster. So I'm concerned for my boys there, but I think that if Mike Young has been learning as much from Xmithie as he says, then it'll be a good change. But I don't know. They've just struggled so much, even with roster consistency this split, that I don't think they're going to be able to make a run. And I'm not sure what they're going to be trying to build, since they blew up their whole roster in the offseason last split. Last year. So I don't know what the idea is to try and build. Because that's what a lot of people are saying. Oh, you pick up Mike Young, you build a team, you get him experience for next year. And I'm like, but they didn't keep anyone from last year. Demonte and Huni came here. Lost is back on their academy team
last year.
Dardoch is on Optic Academy now. I can't remember for the life of me who their support was last year even. But I believe he's playing in Academy now.
I believe so.
Was it Big?
My
I think it
gosh.
was Big.
It was it. Wait, they had a couple of. Oh, let me go
Yeah,
look
I
it
know
up.
they swapped back and forth, but still, they didn't keep anyone from that starting roster. They fired Phoenix in the middle of
Yes.
summer and put him to free agency with hours left, and brought him back.
Yeah.
So they're not obviously not
so.
building
gosh.
bridges, as it were,
Was it
or building a roster
They
that
had
they
a
want to
couple
keep
of.
either.
Let me go look it up.
I'm really confused by what they're trying to do this year, and it bothers me again to see Rush out in free agency and not traded to Liquid Academy. Obviously, Liquid may not have wanted that, but it's just another. I hate to say a mark against Echo Fox because I think it's a great org, but it's just really concerning to me that you're letting these players go in the middle of summer. Admittedly, Rush has time to find a team, but still, it doesn't feel right to me. This is not something you see anyone else do. Even if there are trades, nobody else is putting their players out into free agency in the middle of summer.
That is one thing if we can ding Echo Fox on, is there doesn't seem to be a plan.
Or if it is, it's hard to see.
So I was able to pull up last year. I think they got Smoothie for summer from a trade. If we can,
that's right. They did have Smoothie at the end of summer there when they were playing with Lost.
There doesn't seem to be a plan.
But then they had to let go of Altec as well during that time.
So I was able to, and then they had last year. I think they got Smoothie from a trade. Who knows where Adrian is?
Okay.
I don't know where Adrian is anymore.
Yeah, I don't believe either of those players are playing currently, and from what I know, good riddance.
Yeah.
So,
and then they had Papa Chow and Adrian for the spring. That wasn't reported. Where Adrian is. We're trying not to make this too much of an Echo Fox centric show.
Yeah, that's all
but
right.
if you any folks who wants to start an Echo Fox pod, I welcome you. I welcome you on the show. We want to get connected with you. Incident too. Do what these guys are doing. We get the inside of teams. We're trying not to make this too much of an Echo Fox centric show. And George. If you have any folks who wants to start an Echo Fox pod, I welcome you. Maybe if we have a little time, we'll touch on the future of Clutch a little bit. But do what these guys are doing. We get the inside. So let's go to day two. Day two. I'm glad Clutch guys like against C9 here. Now this is another big test for George.
Sure is. Although probably less of one than I was expecting before Rift Rivals.
Maybe if we have a little time, we'll touch on the future of Clutch.
Honestly, I am still shocked at how
so let's go to day
played.
two. Day two.
Of
Clutch
course, they had
against C9. Now this is another big test.
Sneaky not being able to play for 2 days because of illness, but I'm wondering if he's going to be back in the lineup or if he's not. And honestly, that's going to swing what my prediction will be wildly. Because I think regardless of his actual play, Sneaky brings a lot of shot calling experience and a lot of calm to the team. You have both Blabber and Svenskeren, who are very high energy players. Blabber goes nuts given the chance. Same with Svenskeren. And honestly, I think having both of them on the same team is way too much energy to be controlled. Much like how Cody Sun is the no guy for Clutch, I think Sneaky can kind of be that voice for Cloud9 as well.
Wow. So that's good. It's good news. That's something good to bring up because I thought it was kind of weird when they had Blaber playing ADC, as you can see, during Rift Rivals. So it was due to illness then. I didn't even see that report.
Yep. He was unable to play due to illness. Not
so
saying what illness it was.
News. That's something good to bring up because I thought it was.
I'm hoping it's something short-lived
because
he's one of my favorite players to watch, honestly.
During Rift Rivals. So but if there's a week he could take off, this would be the weekend.
True. It is a week,
and that will set up for that 2-0 week for Clutch. I'm telling you, it's all there.
Hopefully.
But yes, Svenskeren would be one that if there's a week he could take off, this would be the weekend. I think he's still a big and that will set up part of this 2-0 week. This team that helps this team. It's all there. Like it's solidified every time Blaber subs in. But there seems to be a little bit of a Svenskeren would be one that I'm not with this team. Really, I don't think they've won any game with Blaber. A good part of this.
I think they have at least one, helps this team. But I know he's played at least 2 or 3, and he does not have a positive record. It might be even, but it's not positive yet.
Yes. Okay, so they won against Blaber in.
Yes, I believe so.
So that was the only game that Blaber was in. But it's kind of interesting to note that last year Blaber seems to be much more fitting.
Yes.
Some ways.
Yes. Okay. So they won against again, we're gonna go quickly through the head-to-head matchup.
So that was the only game that Blaber was in. But
let's assume Sneaky does
kind
come
of
back. Where is the advantage for Clutch?
last year,
Blaber
seems
do
to
they
be
need to
much more
sort of
fitting?
do something different? Okay.
than
So
what they're doing right
again,
now.
we're gonna go quickly through the
I think they
head-to-head
need to stick
matchup.
with their guns. I
Let's
think where
assume
Clutch
Sneaky does
has
come
run
back.
into a lot of issues.
Where is the advantage for Clutch?
Is when
what
they get too crazy.
Do they need to
when they try too much at once,
sort
or when
of,
they had a really great first half of their draft,
do
and then
something different
the last
than
half
what
is
they're doing
just
right now?
Crazy town. Just bizarre, strange stuff going on, and sometimes it almost works. But every time that I have questioned their draft, I believe they've lost. Well, hardly questioned their draft.
Right.
There's sometimes that I'm like, it's a bit shaky, but I see what they're doing, and then they end up okay. But other times I'm just like, what is this? And those are the games that they lose. So honestly, I think as long as they have a really strong draft, they're going to be okay against Cloud9. I think that the last match that they had in the first round robin, again, a lot of that growing pains in the first week, as well as just way too much happening and Cody Sun not being totally incorporated yet.
Correct.
I think now that they've got everything together, their advantage is Cody Sun. We've seen Sneaky be very shaky this split. And even though he's one of my favorites, he's not been doing great. So I really think you need to rely on rely on Cody Sun from the Clutch side of things in order to bring home the game. But you still have to have action going on the rest of the map so that he doesn't just get camped over and over again. You have to have at least one other lane that they have to pay attention to. And so I'm going to look at the top lane. I think Huni and Licorice is a very explosive matchup between the two. I think Niski's got an edge over Demonte right now. He's just been doing great since he got here. And I think Svenskeren might have a bit of an edge over Lyra, but I think Lyra could beat Blabber, so not quite sure where the jungle's going to land. But I think you have to empower Huni as well as Cody Sun, have both halves of the map play their own game in order to get the win over Cloud9 here.
Absolutely. So there is a clearer vision, or at least a clearer way for Clutch to win, and they don't need to do anything extraordinary or pull some weird comp just to hope it'll work. So as long as they play a solid League of Legends, clearer, as long as they play their style vision, or at least a clearer way for Clutch really to give win, Cloud9 and they don't issues, need to do and I believe that extraordinary or pull some there have been weird comp instances where I'm questioning work. What is as long as they play solid League of Legends normally, but as long as they play their style, they're not. So there we go. Able to so really this give Cloud9 closer issues, and I believe that.
Yeah, I agree.
There have been instances where I'm questioning coming into this split. I would not have thought about that, but normally, but they're not. They're not. So as good as there we go. And we're hoping that so this is stay much closer to throughout summer for me. And fingers crossed, maybe even in conversation. And so.
Yeah, hopefully
again,
so.
Coming into this,
I'm really excited. This is the best that I've seen the team since they made their fourth place run, and they beat TSM. Honestly,
summer,
it's a totally different roster except for Lyra, and I really think he's been the key. Him coming back to form is really what's got me so confident in this team. And I'll say that this team has more potential than that spring split roster from last year. I think you saw that third, fourth place is about the limit of what that team could accomplish, but I don't think we've seen it anywhere close to the limit of this team yet.
That's good to hear, and that's more reason for us to be excited for them and for you all. So again, my second question then is looking into day 2, any other games that stood out to you?
This one's got the classic counter-logic game
and
versus TSM matchup.
More reason for
and
us to be
I'm
excited
keeping my eyes
for
on
them
TSM here
and
again. I'm
so
confused
again, my
after
second
Rift
question
Rivals.
then is looking into day 2,
So,
any other games that stood out to you?
In character for their recent play, but their recent play has confused me anyways. So I'm really interested to see what they can do, and I want to see if Counterlogic can continue to challenge those top teams, because I do still have TSM as one of the top 3 teams. So I'm really interested to see how the old El Clasico, as they call it, will end up. If Counterlogic Gaming will finally get a win over TSM for the first time in I don't even know how many years. If that rivalry will return to being a rivalry, really. So that's where my eyes are.
Certainly a good story for the coaches as well, as they swapped coaches this year. Yeah, coming from last year.
Yes. Yep.
And TSM has been, of course, still dominant despite that swap. But CLG is looking into form. An opponent
Certainly
for
a
Clutch
good
in
story
day one,
for the
and
coaches
we'll
as
see
well.
how
Has they
carry
swapped coaches
whatever
this year?
momentum they
from
have
last
from
year.
day one into day two. And this is a
And
solid matchup.
TSM has been,
glad
of
you
course,
brought
still
this
dominant
despite that swap. But CLG is
having
looking
note
into
that
form.
it seems like
an opponent for Clutch
so
in day one. And
all
we'll
teams
see
will
how they
now be
carry
headed
whatever
into the
momentum
second
they had
half
from day
of
one
the
into
round
day
robin.
two.
So
And
you'll
this
be
is a solid
meeting
matchup.
familiar
glad you
foes.
brought this up again.
So
We already seen
having
them
note
play
that
the first
it
week,
seems
first time
like
around, and the second time around
so
for the rest of the
all
season.
teams will now be
aside
headed
from
into
Team
the
Liquid,
second
what
half
other
of the round
team
robin. So you'll be meeting
has
familiar
has
foes.
you worried, or
Again,
has you kind of like paused,
you already seen
that they have
them
a
play
sort
the
of a
first
style
week,
or
first
some
time around,
sort
and
of
the second time around
composition
for the rest
that,
of the season
that Clutch
aside
might
from
have,
Team
feel
Liquid,
challenged.
what other team
I honestly
has
I
that
don't think
has
there's
you
anybody
worried,
else
or
that scares me
has
as
you
much as
kind of
Team
like
Liquid or
paused,
even really close
that
to
they
it.
have a sort of a
I,
style,
I've
or
said
some
time and time again,
sort of
there's Team
composition
Liquid and
that's,
then there's everybody else.
that Clutch
There's that
might have
bloody
feel
mess, as I
challenged.
like to keep saying over and over again. But honestly, I think Clutch can contend with just about anyone aside from Liquid in their current state. You saw that Clutch was able to push Liquid a little bit last weekend in week 4.
Yeah.
But then eventually Liquid took over and took over fast.
Yeah.
And that set them up for a great Rift Rivals run. And I think they're going to just keep carrying that momentum forward. I'm not sure at this point if anybody else can possibly challenge them for the title. I think we might have another 3-0 finals on our hands.
Yeah.
But to that point, I do think that given the current form of everyone else, Clutch can challenge everyone else and can beat everyone else given the right setup and not screwing things up.
True.
So
yeah, that's awesome to have that kind of confidence and see it in you. Even after the first 2 times we spoke, we knew the state of Clutch and where they were, and this is like the most confident I've seen you for this team. Speaking of which, now that we have
awesome
take a little
to
time
have,
to have that kind
over,
of confidence.
I think it was
and see
over
it
the
in you.
summer that they've
Even
announced
after
that
the first 2 times we
that
spoke, we
Clutch
knew
has
the
been
state
acquired.
of Clutch and where they were.
Can you
and
tell us
this
a little
is,
bit
like,
more
the
about
most
what's
confident I've seen
about
you
to happen?
for this
Is
team.
it
Speaking
at one
of
point I
which,
thought there
now
was a
that we
complete
have
buyout,
take a
and
little
then
time,
I heard there was a
over,
share.
I think it was over the
how-
summer
what
that
is
they've
going on
announced
for
that
Clutch
team
Gaming and
that going
Clutch
into
has been
2020.
acquired?
Or
Can you tell us a little bit more about
it
what's
was rumored early
about
on
to happen? Is it
into
at one point I thought there was a
spring
complete
playoffs
buyout, and
that
then
Clutch
I
was going
heard
to be
there was a
acquired
shared,
by Team Dignitas. The
what
old
is going on for Clutch
team that
Gaming
was endemic to the
going into
LCS.
2020?
You could never really get rid of them. They got relegated and came back and back and back. But then they didn't make franchising. They were not approved for franchising. Since then, Dignitas has had a lot of rebranding and a lot of change in hands, doing a lot better for themselves right now. And so they were able to buy a majority share of Clutch. The Houston Rockets still do have some connection. They still do have stake in the team. But come the end of this year of play, Clutch will be no more and Dignitas will be back in the LCS. So for right now, because things are still going, Clutch is Clutch. And even if they make it all the way to Worlds, they will stay Clutch. But once the year turns over, this is Dignitas through and through. It's really funny that we mentioned that, though, because after the announcement in week 2, in between week 1 and 2, that Dignitas had acquired Clutch and that they were going to be coming back. That's when you saw a lot of the changes that are really positive for Clutch. That's when you started seeing things really pick up for the team. And this has been my dad's speculation, is that having that sense of surety that there is someone behind you, there will be an organization that will take care of you at the end of the year, has really revitalized the team. On top of the fact that, as far as I'm aware, Dignitas staff are already working with them. And actually, that brings me to another point. They've just acquired ThinkCard, who is the old Dignitas coach as well. ThinkCard is their assistant coach right now, and we're actually hoping to have him on our podcast very soon.
Awesome.
Kind of welcome him to the team. But honestly, everything that I have seen from the team since the Dignitas acquisition has been great. And from what I've said, or from what I've talked with Demonte about on one of our previous podcasts, he says it's been wonderful. There's just a lot of things that were done very slowly on Clutch, got bogged down in decision making and things like that. That Dignitas is just like, yep, let's do that. or no, let's not do that. They just give a
Very
decision
clear.
and make things very clear very quickly too. So I think that's why you're seeing so much rapid growth from the Clutch squad, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And it'll take us a while to just switch over that mindset. I think I'll
Very
still
clear.
be calling them Clutch all the way until it finally sets in.
For
So
sure.
will we be seeing you and your dad in new like Dignitas gear and going forward?
We are undecided
that's
as of
awesome
yet.
to hear. It'll
We
take
haven't
us a while
actually had a
to
chance,
just switch over that
unfortunately,
mindset. I think
to
I'll
talk
still
with
be
any of
calling
the
them
wonderful
Clutch all the way until
people over at Haus.
it finally sets in.
I know
So
that
will
they've
we
been
be
very
seeing
vocal about
you
supporting
and your
Clutch
dad in
throughout the
new
summer
like
split, and
Dignitas
they
gear
post on their
and
social
going
media about the
forward?
Clutch games and things like that. In fact, they seem to be reverse cursing because old Dignitas was terrible around Barons.
Yes.
They're reverse cursing people so that they're terrible around Clutch's Barons. So I love it.
Alright.
I'm hoping that we might be able to have some kind of partnership with them, but as of right now, league leaders will remain league leaders,
Yes.
regardless of which team we support. And that's open to interpretation. You never know. Next split, we might be the FlyQuest team, or we might be the Echo Fox podcast. But we're looking into our options right now. We've had a wonderful relationship with Clutch. We'd love to bring that forward with Dignitas. But at the same time, if they want to have their own podcast, or if they've already got plans in place, then we don't want to interrupt that either. So honestly, we're still looking. We're judging all of our options here, but we would love to work with Dignitas.
All right. Well, seems like a lot of exciting changes can be coming into 2020, and I am praying and hoping for the best for you and your dad. But thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoy having you on every time. Seems like a lot of exciting changes can be the state of the coming into 2020.
So my
and
pleasure.
I am praying and hoping for the best for
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
and
Cross
your
fingers,
dad.
hoping for it.
But thank
All
you
right.
so much.
So
for
for
joining
signing
me.
off,
I
why don't you
really
tell our
enjoy
viewers
having
again?
you on
Maybe we
every
have some
time.
new viewers now.
Just picking
Where
your
they can
mind
find
about
your work,
the state
where
of
they
the
can
league.
hit you up.
So
What are you doing in the upcoming days?
Sure. Well, every Monday at 7 p.m. Central.
All right. So
at
for signing off, why don't you tell our
League
viewers
Leaders,
again?
you can
Maybe
catch
we
our
have some new
Overreaction
viewers
Monday
now.
show.
Where they
We're
can find
working
your
on
work,
getting
where
that,
they can hit you up. What are you doing
re-recorded.
in the upcoming
Transitioning
days?
from video to audio, it's very hard, and we've been audio only for so long. So we're getting that going on our Twitch channel. We're also going to be getting other shows going on our Twitch channel. So if you want to follow us, we don't have subscribers just yet, but if you want to follow us and get notifications when we go live, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming. Also, you can always follow us on our Twitter. We're at League_Leaders1. And that's where you can find all of our other information. Of course, on screen, I am at ZLindsey01. And for right now, we're still on our SoundCloud for most of our podcasts. We are working to get that so you guys can just hit a button to subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play or wherever, and just automatically get our new episodes when they're ready. Still in the works, but we'll get it.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Zachary. Everything will be found on the description, guys. Hang on, and keep watching, keep following, and do go to their overreaction show. It's one of the best, man. Not much to overreact. Awesome. Thank you so much, Zachary. Everything will be found on the description, guys.
Weekend's kind of hard
hang on, and keep watching, keep following, and do go to their overreaction show. It's one of the best, man.
I like hanging
Thank
out.
you. Not much to overreact. This
Thank you so much, Zachary. I will see you soon. I am aiming to have you back on for Worlds preview.
I'd love to be here.
And
hopefully we'll be able to talk Clutch by then.
Well.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much, Zachary. I will see you soon. I will. Rift. If you're not, I am aiming to have you back on for Worlds preview. And just hopefully we'll be able to talk Clutch by then. And welcome back, folks. Let me see if things are flowing a little bit. I'm going to play some music in the background. You might see it pop up or not, but I'll try to keep that out of the way. So thank you again for Zachary Lindsey for just coming in and talking a little bit about the LCS, give us a little breakdown of what Clutch Gaming is going through. So for him, Clutch Gaming seems to be very much in the right spot, going in a in the right direction. That would mean, and I couldn't disagree with him. And so the second half of this split will be very telling if they can keep the momentum up. And so we want to just pay attention to that. I think they have a great matchup upcoming this week
Dear
against
Lexus.
CLG.
Dear Lexus, it is
And
with a
of
very
course, we'll have to
grateful
skip
heart
through this
that I write you
commercial
about
as
your
it
amazing-
tells us about Dear Life. Any case, yes, now we have some sweet background music going on here. Please let me know if it's a little too loud. Okay, back to the matter at hand. So here's my initial cheat sheet that I just created just by looking at the salary breakdown and matchup and taking all things into consideration. And Clutch Gaming against CLG is a very much a coin flip matchup. While the odds may not bear that way, I think that would give us a good sort of way to play Clutch Gaming, because I think they are priced underdogs. So you have Lyra, who's priced very low, Cody's Son, very low, very much a GPP type of play. There are other coin flip types of play in this week as well. I don't want to touch the Fly Fox matchup just yet, although I did list Fox as a more so of a punt, a long shot type of win. I think FlyQuest is in a very precarious situation right now where they're seem to be snowballing out of control. Now, my colleagues at the Gold Card Pod naturally said that they believe in FlyQuest. This is the turnaround. They're all in it. I want to see it first, and that would mean that I need to see things work out for sorry, let's change the date. Things work out to get how they are coming together. Pope Belcher, I think he's just not playing up to his very best, and that could mean something. Now, Mike Young is a new addition to Fox, as we talked about in the pod, and this may change a little bit. Hopefully, bring some stability to Echo Fox. Echo Fox still is a very, very a team that you cannot trust in any capacity of any manner. But that's why they make for a fantastic multi-entry GPP type of play. They randomly win games, and this is listed as a real coin flip game where both teams are minus betting odds. So pay attention to that, see how things are shifting as we get closer to Saturday. But right now, I think FlyQuest are priced higher than Echo Fox, so there's very little chance for me to just play some FlyQuest unless I am in desperate. I just want to throw something out there. The other game, match of the day, would probably be Team Liquid against C9. Team Liquid is in a class of its own. I don't know what C9 is up to. We heard that Sneaky is sick. Pay attention to that news. We might have to pay attention to see if Flavor is coming to play or not. I know that he does not really fit that ADC role very well, and as Zachary already told us, when Senskieren and Blaber are in there together, that's just a combustible formula waiting to happen. So I was tempted to put C9 as a contrarian stack, but I don't think I'm going to go that direction. There are a lot more options in this slate because a lot of the teams are slated as a coin flip type of game. The other one is Golden Guardians against Optics. I'm probably leaning Golden Guardians here. So I have them as a cash gameplay. They are just a good team for DFS purposes. I'm not so sure of where they are at in terms of real life. I think they love this skirmishing, love this team fighting. They just love to be involved with a lot of fights. So when they win or when they lose, they still maintain this high floor. So they are sort of a safe cash place that you don't have to pay through the roof for, as you need to do with Team Liquid or TSM on the slate. I did put TSM in there. I'm not so sure this is a home run slate. I mean, the momentum is on 100 Thieves' side. And there's a lot of talk about how TSM is not coming together. They are still one of the best teams in NA, and I hope they might have something to figure out. But Team Liquid, C9, TSM, well, all three teams are coming back from Rift Rivals hangover, and Team 100 Thieves are coming in with greater momentum, with greater practice, with greater synergy around. And if Acadian or Greg, either one, fails, this is where 100 Thieves has a opportunity to win, because Amazing is simply the best leader of 100 Thieves right now, and he is dominating in the jungle. If they can keep that game plan going, that might be the way I see how 100 Thieves have a shot against TSM. So don't. I'll just put. I'll update it right now. I think I'll have 100 Thieves as a contrarian stack, and Fake Out is something I don't mind leaving out, but just in case I'm wrong, because that tends to happen, right? I have this idea that player doesn't do well, he's never been done well for the team. For the longest stretch, you look at the statistics, it bears out that he's not been that great, but suddenly, it's the moment that I least expect it, he just comes back and carries this for the team. But in all intended purposes, even in real life, Fake Out is not someone who is getting too much of a focus on. The team is building around Ryu, Amazing, and Bang. And even Afro Mu is like dying fewer times now and just giving 100 Thieves a chance. So it starts with Amazing, and then I'll likely Bang Afro or Ryu Bang Amazing. So those are the kind of combination I'm looking at as I'm talking through this slate. In the case that 100 Thieves does win and TSM is experiencing Rift Rivals hangover. And then that leads us to CLG. I have them in there. I think they are likely a safer play based on where they're priced. But I'm also believing in my own type of buff where I guess coming on my show gets a 2-0 weekend. So this is all narrative. I have nothing to back this on. CLG is a good team. They're very solid. Stixxay, Power of Evil, Biofrost, even Wiggly, who just received a contract extension, is being recognized for his good jungling ability. Maybe he's playing way over his head, but that's the momentum you're riding through the summer, and they have another week to practice on their skills. As is Rune, a great addition, a great top laner for CLG. So there's a lot of different directions you can go right now, and the first build that I have is Team Liquid and Golden Guardians. That's the stack I have going on. That will likely be my cash stack because I feel that these two teams are the safest of the whole slate. Likely you'll find some higher ownership on Golden Guardians. That's what I'm thinking. So again, don't be afraid if you want to take a chance on optics to go contrarian. You'll be going against the field. You'll set yourself apart. I think if I get news that Crown is playing, I might just do that. I might think optics could have a chance to win this game, or at least make this game a bloody game, because Golden Guardians is a bloody good matchup to play against. As you can see here, the DraftKings point allowed on average. Golden Guardians rank up quite up there with Clutch Gaming, with Echo Fox, with FlyQuest. So even if they are a winning team, they're ranked in the top 6. There is still some worries for them about closing games, the ability to just thrive only on team fight. I don't think that's helpful. So with a little time left, because we don't have much to talk about in the there's nothing to talk about in LEC, we'll have a little preview. We don't have salary naturally for the Sunday slate, but we have Golden Guardians against Echo Fox. You're already circling Golden Guardians here. They're going to just steamroll over Echo Fox. And then C9 against Clutch Gaming. We're hoping for a 2-0 week for Zachary's sake, for Leader's sake, and this might be a possibility, especially if Sneaky is out. But even then, we're just going to assume that C9 is going to win this game, and it's going to be a high scoring fest. This is another game you want to circle on. Then Team Liquid against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves does not have the prowess of Team Liquid. Team Liquid will be a safe cash play all across. Likely a little bit expensive. You might have to either play double lift Core JJ, if that's the only 2 combo you want to play, or just leave double lift out in your GPP stack and stack in the rest. Then you have TSM against CLG. CLG has yet to win against TSM for the longest time. They have a good chance right now with TSM being on the downswing, so that is worth paying attention to what happens on day 1. If TSM is really in this slump, this might be the time I go back to them. If they're winning in day 1, this might be a game that I avoid, or I might go CLG, throw in a CLG in the 25-cent arcade. And then we have the optics against Fly. Really depends if Crown is playing. If Crown's playing, I have full confidence that optics might win. Having said that, this is also the time that I get worried because at the second half of the slate, things seems to flip it's on its head, and certain teams that seem to have overperformed. I think many do believe that Optics did overperform in the early split half of the split. They were up there, man. They were one of the teams that were the last undefeated team, I guess, at some point. But Dokla is still a mess, and I'm not too big on big, pun intended. But if Optics can carry that momentum, this is something to watch out for the remainder of the regular season. And it will be telling if they can beat a lowly team like FlyQuest, or if this is indeed FlyQuest's comeback. FlyQuest turning it around, trying to make for a run. I don't want to say, but I do have to take a stand. I don't think FlyQuest is going to make any type of comeback in any sense. They still have to play against top 3 teams for the remainder of the split, and they're already close to being eliminated from playoffs, so they would need a perfect second half to have a chance. So those are some of my thoughts. I think we'll be having another fun weekend. Hit me up at prime time. I'll try to talk to you about anything that I can see that's breaking news, about roster changes and whatnot on Saturday, all the way leading up to lock. I'm also playing Rift Rivals, I'm playing Academy. Those are some fun things. I can answer a few questions here and there, but I'm still not entirely comfortable giving personal advice on there because I am not quite hitting it yet with cash consistently. Fun with the GPP because I get to play the narrative, I get to play different underdogs and whatnot, and that's something that you probably should do with these international events. I do want to say listen to John George, the esports plug. He has been good with the international events, and I will try to follow him instead of going against him because that's what hurt me at the Rift Rivals 1 and MSI. I'm always trying to be better than him, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta admit defeat. So, with that said, thank you for joining my show. Hit up League Leaders, hit up Zach Lindsey, and enjoy your weekend. May you see victory instead of defeat.